My name is Will Carter, co-founder of a startup down in LA called Ad Hoc Labs. And I'm here to talk to you about this idea I've been thinking about a lot called location-based Disservices. So I've been playing around in this space, location space, for a really long time, and I kind of think of myself as trying to come up with projects that are A, unsuccessful, and B, kind of interesting or provocative in how people use location or use space and place to think about their environment. And so it's been kind of awesome from this graph that I completely made up. You'll see here that location, like technology and companies and people doing interesting projects in the space has really been doubling every year. And one of the great things is that it's really mostly like enabling technologies. It's like I give you my location, and it's a very clear value proposition that I'm going to get something cool and interesting back. And that's really exciting. But at the same time, I'm sort of getting slightly worried. I think that because location is getting blended into everything, and it's baked into everything now, I think we have maybe a slightly less defined sense of what that means or where we're going. And I don't really think it's about privacy. I frankly think that thinking about privacy is kind of boring, and I've always been very laissez-faire about it. I think it's like kind of a known problem, you know? I mean, this has been something that's in our subconscious, and we're all kind of, like, oh, don't surveil me, and all this kind of stuff. And I think what's really interesting is what actually is happening when we opt into these technologies, you know? Like, I mean, you see this all the time. Location is in almost every app. Like, do you want to share your location? Yes. You don't even think about it. You don't think about what's happening to this value proposition. And I think that leads to these instances of things where it's more confusing, and like we don't really know what's going to happen when we keep opting into these technologies, right? Like, I mean, this is one example, but it happens all the time, right? Like unexpected consequences. So the other day, like for example, I opened up this MLB app and kind of did the same thing, right? Like, I just saw the location sharing thing. I pressed OK, share my location with this app. And then the next day, like, I opened it. I'm down in Los Angeles, and I'm a Dodgers fan, sorry. But I couldn't watch the game. I opened it up, and it's like, hey, you're in Los Angeles. Hey, congratulations. You can't watch this game because you're in the TV market, of the Dodgers. And so I think it's interesting to sort of stop here for a moment and sort of and clarify what I mean. It's like I gave this app my location without having a really good sense of what it was going to use it for. And what it actually did was it used it against me, right? Like, it didn't provide any sort of service. It provided this disservice. It actually kind of screwed me over. So it's a classic catch-22. I mean, I can try to opt out of that location sharing on that app, but ultimately it's not going to let me watch any video, right? So, like, what is the future here? I mean, I think this is kind of a blind spot for sort of futurism in this area. I think everybody looks at the idea of public or private surveillance and those fictions about how those systems will act and how privacy acts in those systems. But what if you had like location-enabled Hulu Plus, right? Like, if I'm flying from California back to my lovely home state of Utah, and like they start enforcing, like privacy barriers, like digital boundaries, geographic boundaries. Like, do I get blacked out of Big Love, or if I'm a big Katy Perry fan potentially, I don't know if I really am, but in like all the country decides that like Katy Perry sucks, but California's like, we like Katy Perry. We sort of police the boundaries here too. It's like, can we only listen to Katy Perry in California? And like, going even more silly and stupid, what if the lottery was sort of location enabled and you really got this kind of great prize if you win, but the downside of it is potentially a smart bomb to your location. I threw this slide in because I'm sorry, like I'm a Hunger Games fan, but I think that everybody knows that having location enabled services in Panem would really be really bad if you lived in District 13. Inside joke. Anybody? No. That's happened to me like every single time I do these talks. So I think the thing is like avoiding 20/20 hindsight, right? Like these things sound silly and stupid, these little scenarios, but they happen like all the time, right? Every single day there's something where like, oh, we should have like built that 20 more feet to that seawall. Like, it's an important thing to think about. And so I think maybe what helps there is thinking about your coordinates as a type of currency, where effectively you're the broker, and you have to think about, sort of think about in a more detail what you're doing when you're giving your location coordinates to somebody and what value you're getting in return, right? And so I think that what needs to happen is we need to have more insight and more kind of the idea of the value proposition needs to be clearer and more understandable. So thank you.